The next one that we are going to study okay. The next one, the next standard on auditing. Please settle down fast, everyone. The next auditing standard that we are going to study is SA 700. SA 700. Shh. Silence. SA 700 is the next auditing standard. Please write down the heading. You can see the heading is there. It's forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. Forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. That's the name of the standard. Write slowly, understand and then write. Forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. So these are the key words which I have underlined. Forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. You can see that there is a word written here, revised. It's written revised. What do you mean by revised? It means that it has undergone some changes since its issue. So since its issue, it has undergone some changes. So that is why it's become revised now. So forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements. Have you copied the name? Okay, no problem. Take your time. No, that is insufficient time. No, that I can't give you. I can give you only sufficient time. That is 1 minute. So forming an opinion and reporting on financial statements is the name. Kindly update your index also. Every standard that we'll be doing. And I really like that you understood audit documentation so fast. Intelligent class. My pleasure. So it's very, if I understand one standard, that means all the standards are going to go like that only. Can I proceed now? Okay, so I'll just remove the name and instead of that, you have to listen to my explanation now. SA 700. Here two things are happening. Both the things need to be understood. The first thing which I want to say is about the opinion. When I talk about SA 700, the first thing or the first word which comes to my mind is opinion. The second word which comes to my mind is reporting. Okay? Very important standard. Again, I'm telling you the first 15 to 20 standards that I'm doing with you all. They may seem to be basic, but they are highly important for IPCC. See, all these auditing standards get repeated in final C also, but at a different level. It's all advanced level there. So here it is a working level. What is written in your study material, if you see, IPCC level, you should have working knowledge of how to do auditing. So whatever discussion we are, discussing things here are totally based on the working knowledge for an auditor. So of course these standards will be repeated in final C also. So you have to create a good background. More or less the content will be same. You have to really create a good background for understanding these standards so that you can understand those advanced concepts at final C level. So SA 700, opinion and reporting are the two things which I am discussing. Please pay attention. It's a very nice concept to understand. This standard forms an integral part of an auditor. Whenever an auditor is conducting his audit, okay, whenever an auditor is conducting his audit, ultimately, what is the client expecting an auditor to do? The client is expecting an auditor to give his audit report. So ultimately what happens, after the whole audit gets over, an auditor is required to prepare an audit report and this audit report is submitted to the client. Okay. So clients are basically expecting what? Audit report from an auditor. Now, when as an auditor, I am giving a report to my client, of course, in my report, I would have expressed some opinion. in my report I would have expressed some opinion. When I say opinion, in very simple terms, opinion means you have to draw some conclusions. Okay, in the very first, the initial part of the lecture where I was just explaining you something basics, there also I told you that in your audit report you are required to express opinion. That means you just have to draw certain conclusions here. Okay, now as far as audit reports are concerned, audit reports need to be given by an auditor, but there is a style of preparing an audit report. Now first of all, when I am preparing an audit report, I should always know that my report should always have a title. Okay, my report should always have a title. Let me tell you that nowhere it is written that the auditor's report should be prepared in XYZ format only. That means there is no fixed format which is given by ICAI anywhere as far as the audit reports are concerned where you express your opinion. So I am just giving you a general format here which can be customized as per the requirements. Okay, customized means what? It can be changed as per the requirements. So I am just giving you a general format here. Every auditor who is doing auditing should always give a title to his audit report. Just for an instance, if I am doing the statutory audit, I should always write here that my report is a statutory audit report. Okay, my report is a statutory audit report. So what will happen, there will be a title which will be allocated to the audit report. So the reader can understand that means what type of audit report he is reading for. Now, I have only explained you what is statutory audit. Statutory audits are which type of audits? They are done by internal and external auditors. External auditors. Statutory audits are done by external auditors. One more point which I want to add on here is that then I have to write the name of the client or the kind of the client to whom I am serving. That means suppose if it's a company, I'll say X Limited. That means this audit report should be designated to a company or to a firm. So the client name should be the next head of the audit report. So after I give a title to the audit report, then I have to write the name of the client to whom I'm serving. Then every audit report, see this is a very general format. I'm telling you normally in 95 to 98% of the audit reports you will find this type of things written. Okay, the title will be there, the name of the client will be there. Then the some important para which is to be given is the opening para. Now what do you mean by opening para? Para means full paragraph. So here in the opening para, I have to try to convince, I have to greet my client here that it was a pleasure working with you as an auditor. The staff was extremely cooperative. If I translate that in Hindi and tell you, client को बाटली में उतारना, समझा मैंने क्या बोला? Okay, मतलब उसको you try to make the client happy. You try to make the client happy और फिर बाटली में उतारने के बाद उस पर ढक्कन लगा देना. Okay, तो नहीं तो he will not give you remuneration. See, ultimately, who is going to pay remuneration to the auditor? The client has to pay. So you need to greet the client. You need to, tell him good things also, even if the client was not good at all during the whole course of audit. So you just have to tell him good things. Pay attention. So when I am talking about greeting the client, you can write everything which will help the client in understanding that, okay, I have really met a very nice person and this is a person which I will be reappointing next year also for my auditing. So opening para will contain what? Some type of descriptions which are describing the client itself, greeting, behavior of the client, etc. Then after opening para comes the main important one. This is the para for which I am discussing the audit report. Achha, some auditors what they do, they write what they did in auditing in the opening para only, which is called as scope of audit. You know what you mean by scope of audit? Scope means how much work, what work you have done, that also you need to mention in the opening para. Some people give it separately, some give it in the opening para itself. No matter you give it separately or in the opening para, as long as you're writing everything in the audit report, it is said to be a full-fledged completed audit report. After that, the key one is this one. This para is called as the conclusion para. Okay. Actually, for this para only we are preparing the audit report. We are not preparing audit report for any other thing. We are preparing the audit report for this para only. So conclusion para. Here in the conclusion para, an auditor will be required to express his opinion. Okay. So now my job will be to teach you what are the different types of opinions which auditors can express. And let me tell you that whatever opinions I'll be teaching you all, these opinions will be from the viewpoint of the statutory auditors only. These opinions will be from the viewpoint of the statutory auditors only. Who are the statutory auditors? Come on, tell me, who are the statutory auditors? External auditors. So basically, whatever opinions I'll be giving in this audit report, they will be from the viewpoint of which auditors? Statutory auditors only. Now, before I can write anything on this page, let me tell you that as far as the opinions are concerned, there are 4 types of opinions which auditors can explain, or which auditors can rather express in their audit reports. Okay, so there are 4 types of opinions. First, I'll be writing their names, and then I'll tell you what is the relevance of every single opinion that you give. Please tell me, this audit report that I'm teaching you, I'm preparing it from the viewpoint of which auditor? For the time being, just forget who is an internal auditor. Okay, for the time being, just forget who is an internal auditor. Let's only talk about the statutory auditor. So there are 4 types of opinions. Let me just write down their names for better understanding. What are these 4 different types of opinions? The first opinion, the first type of opinion you can say which can be given in an audit report can be called as an unqualified opinion. What is it called as? Unqualified. You should repeat after me so that you remember what I am saying. The first type of opinion will be unqualified opinion. Then suppose if it's not unqualified, then the next one will be a qualified opinion. Very good. The next one will be which one? Qualified opinion. Suppose if it's not qualified also, then it can be an adverse opinion. What it can be? Adverse opinion. Acha. Suppose if it's not that also, it can be a disclaimer of opinion. It can be a disclaimer of opinion. Come on, tell me, what are the 4 different types of opinions? Disclaimer. Okay. Achha, when you're answering in chorus also, you should answer what I'm asking only. Okay, nothing else. So, unqualified opinion, qualified opinion, adverse opinion, and disclaimer of opinion. Now, our job is basically to understand what are these 3 different types of opinion. Actually, for opinion, Institute has issued 3 standards. The Institute has issued 3 standards. Though I am teaching you one, but actually speaking, this same concept will come in the next 2 standards also, which I will not be teaching you today because they are a little advanced standards compared to ones which we are discussing today. So, in the today's matter of discussion, we will be only discussing these 4 different types of opinions, and there has been no single audit paper gone where they haven't asked a question on any one of them. That means you can just imagine in some way or the other these 4 opinions will always be there in the exam, or maybe one of them may come in the exam. How it works, let's talk about unqualified opinion first. If I have to give you an explanation, what do you mean by unqualified opinion? Here is the explanation for that. Now, as far as unqualified opinions are concerned, just understand. You know what happens? Every management of every company is responsible to prepare financial statements. Didn't I say this or not? Yes, that means management is responsible. Responsible for what? For what? Making, or can I say for preparation of financial statements? Acha, tell me, what is the responsibility of an auditor? To check the financial statements. So when he starts checking the financial statements, if an auditor concludes that management has followed accounting standard, if an auditor concludes that management has followed accounting standards, if then auditor concludes that management has prepared financial statements, tell me, basically financial statement means what? Balance sheet and profit and loss account. Can we include cash flow statement? So basically balance sheet, profit and loss account and cash flow statement are prepared in a format which is given under the schedule number 6 of the Companies Act, which has been now even revised. That is why I have written that R. That means schedule 6 has now been revised completely. It has undergone a revision. What I mean to tell you here is that whenever management is responsible for preparation of financial statements and if accounting standards are followed, if financial statements are prepared in the form, in the content which is given in the format of schedule 6. That means, see, you went in the company to check to find out mistakes, but what happened, you could not find out any mistake, because if you would have found out mistake, what it could have been? It could have been accounting standard not followed. But if accounting standards are followed, where is the mistake then? Okay, what mistake could have been? Management would have not followed schedule 6 properly, or would have followed the old schedule 6 when the new is applicable. But now it is following the revised schedule 6 also. So what mistake could have been? Schedule 6 not followed, but here management has followed schedule 6. One more example. I can give you plenty of examples to make you understand what I am talking about. Auditor went in the company to obtain audit evidence. Little back I had used this word audit evidence, if you remember. Yeah, proof of auditing. So if you went to the company and you wanted some audit evidence, some information you wanted, or you can say some explanations you wanted from the management, you could get all the information and explanations you wanted. So tell me, do you have any reasons to say that the financial statements of the company are not showing a true and fair view? You are trying to find out those reasons. You are trying to find out those reasons whether financial statements can be true and fair, but actually you are not getting any reason only to say that the financial statements are true and fair. That means, if you are getting a reason that financial statements are true and fair, all these are proof, all these are examples. Like audit evidence, you found audit evidence, management had followed accounting standard, Schedule 6 format was followed for making financial statements. That means there was no possibility which was existing to deny the fact. That means we were not knowing anything to deny the fact that the financial statements are not true and fair. So when we know that everything is true and fair, that means I write in my audit report these golden words. These are called as golden words in auditing. Or in other words, I can say it is called as the true and fair view. So what do you mean by true and fair view? True and fair view means everything which is contained in financial statements is true and fair. There is no reason for an auditor to believe that the management has not provided audit evidence. There is no reason for an auditor to believe that the management has not followed accounting standards. There is no reason for an auditor to believe that the financial statements are not prepared as per the revised Schedule 6 format. In short, he got what he wanted from the management. So if he got what he wanted from the management, in that case he will write true and fair view. You know what is the other name for this word true and fair view? It is called as unqualified opinion. So when I use the word unqualified opinion, what it implies? It simply implies everything is true and fair. Some people they always designate this unqualified opinion as clean opinion also. Okay, some people always write clean opinion. So what do you mean by clean opinion? Clean means there is nothing contained in financial statements which can prove the other way around. Have you understood this point? That means everything which is contained in the financial statement is clean. There is no harsh reason for an auditor to believe. But you know what will happen? Suppose if an auditor comes across a harsh reason, then he will say that it is qualified. When I am using the word qualified, or if I qualify my audit report, I can give you an instance here. I'll try to take references of various accounting standards also to give you examples. Plus, what will be the advantage? These type of examples have been already asked in the past papers. So you can even crack the example if it comes in the exam like this. How it works. Suppose if I am a person, I am an owner, I want to start a factory. Something like a factory. This is my factory. Big factory, Smoke coming out. How's the drawing? Drawing is good. So if I am the owner and if I want to start a factory, now you tell me one thing, please pay attention, don't laugh on my drawing, please pay attention first. Acha, more than starting a factory, always there is a question whether I want to start a factory in a village or whether I want to start a factory in a city. Always there is a question. Now, there are many, I would say optimistic people who have given the answer that they want to start a factory in a village. Can you tell me a reason why? One person, yeah, you say. Acha, somebody is saying that if I start factory in village, the cost will be lower. Okay, then tax concession. Somebody is saying I will get tax concession. Then very good. Somebody is saying that employment can be generated if I start a factory. Okay, now if I have to tell you answers of all these people, if I have to interpret those answers, tell me one thing. If I start a factory, okay, if I start a factory in a village, suppose if I generate employment opportunities for people, tell me, when people are employed, can I say their standard of living will enhance? What do you mean by standard of living? Your purchasing power will increase or not? You are eating, outside idli dosa, and then you'll start going to McDonald's and start eating burgers then? Okay, if your standard of living increases, okay, tell me one thing, if your standard of living increases, you will order Domino's pizza at home? When you don't mind paying extra money if your standard of living is high. Are you understanding or not? Today tell me, if you're sitting here and doing CA course, why are you doing CA course? Who told you? Who told you to do CA course? Because you want to enhance your standard of living or not? Okay, that means basically you are doing CA course to enhance the standard of living. I am asking you a very simple question. I am asking you a very simple question. Tell me one thing. Today, if my standard of living goes high, can I say I can contribute to the government by paying taxes also? Acha, if you have ever gone to a proper restaurant where they charge you service tax, you believe you are eating something plus you're paying service tax also on that. Acha, tell me who is collecting this service tax from you? Generally the hotel is collecting, but it's not the hotel, it's the government which is ultimately collecting service tax. Tell me, if government starts giving some concessions, or I would say government gives something called as a subsidy. Now when government gives subsidy up to a person to start a factory in a remote area or maybe a village, what will happen? He will create employment. Somebody rightly pointed out here, employment opportunity. Now you tell me, if employment is created, can I say people's standard of living will go high? Achha, if their standard of living goes high, can I say that then they will be starting to pay taxes to the government? Government gave you little subsidy and it collected so much money in the form of taxes. So is it beneficial for government to give you subsidy? My very simple question. Now I am coming to the point. Why did I tell you all these things? Reason. Look here. The reason is that when government gives me a subsidy to start a factory in a, say, a village or a remote area, what is this accounting standard saying? There's one accounting standard 12 on this aspect. You may, excellent, somebody knows also that this is something called as government grants. Very good. Somebody knows here government grant. My very simple question to you is that whenever you are getting government grant in the form of a subsidy, the standard says that if I follow a particular method, I will have to reduce, suppose if this is the cost price of the factory, CP, cost price, I have to reduce GG from that. What is GG? Suppose if I got a 30 crore grant from government, this all rupees are in crores because factories cannot be started in lakhs of rupees, okay? So suppose if it is 30 crores, tell me one thing, if you are the owner of the factory, what will be the amount which is readily available for you to charge depreciation? This one or this one? Analyze. See, I am not telling you give spontaneous answer. Whenever a question is asked, understand why this question is asked. Tell me one thing, if I received government grant of 30 crore rupees and I reduce that government grant from the cost price of the asset, tell me, for an owner, is it advisable to charge depreciation on 100 crores or should he charge depreciation on 70 crores? Now every owner will think like that only, that I should charge depreciation on 100 crores. But if you also see the concept of depreciation, the depreciation concept says that it should be always charged on the original cost of the asset. Didn't I say something which is incorrect or something like that? Aise kuch to nahi bola na. I have said something which is proper only. What I am trying to tell you, that when I am charging depreciation, should I charge depreciation on the original cost of the asset? Yes. But tell me, as an owner, what is the original cost for me? Did I spend 100 crores or did I spend only 70 crores? That means if you are owner, you will always be inclined towards charging depreciation on 100 crores, but for you the actual cost is only 70 crores. Then you tell me one thing, if the actual cost is only 70 crores, how can you charge depreciation on 100 crores? And some people do that. But you tell me, if you are charging depreciation on a higher amount, can I say for income tax purpose also this is an allowable expenditure? Depreciation is an allowable expenditure. It's a non-cash allowable expenditure for income tax purpose. Tell me, you will claim higher depreciation if you charge 100 crores per depreciation. If you charge depreciation on 100 crores, you will claim higher depreciation. Tell me one thing, if you claim high depreciation, your net profit will go down. If your net profit go down, your tax liability will also go down. On one hand, you are taking subsidy from government, and on another hand, you are paying low tax to the government. Will the government like this? Government will never like it, okay? That is why Government of India suggested to Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to release a standard called as government grant. In that standard you write that whenever a government grant is received and if it is reduced from the original cost of the asset, then the depreciation should be always charged on the reduced cost and not on the original cost. Now if suppose some company is still charging depreciation on 100 crores as the treatment you suggested to me, it is not wrong, but it is against the standard. When there is something written in the standard and if you are not following the standard, what it implies that it is a violation of standard. And when there is a violation of one standard also, I'll repeat this, if there's a violation of one standard also, then the auditor cannot say everything is true and fair. He has to give a qualified opinion. You know why is qualified opinion given? Qualified opinion is given because everything contained in financial statements is true and fair, but those things are true and fair subject to certain exceptions. Now when I say exception, this was an exceptional point for me. Normally companies follow accounting standard, but if one of the accounting standard is not followed, it means what? It is an exception. So whenever there is an exception, that exception needs to be pointed out in the auditor's report. Okay, let everybody know. And in fact, as an auditor, I told the company also that you please modify your treatment. You charge depreciation on 70, still the company was inclined towards charging depreciation on 100 crores only. So let it do so, but in my audit report, what will I say? I will try to qualify my opinion. You know what do you mean by the literal meaning of the word qualification? Qualification means auditor has kept his opinion reserved. Okay, when I say he's reserving, or in the form of a remark he is specifying that all the things are not true and fair, there are certain exceptions existing in financial statements. So unqualified and qualified, what's the basic difference? The similarity is that both are true and fair, but the difference is that this is true and fair subject to certain exceptions. In fact, you won't believe it, in every audit report you will always find that these words subject to are always written, and the subject to itself signifies that there are certain exceptions contained in the financial statements. Please tell me, have you understood these points or not? That means to make you just understand one qualified opinion, you saw how the cycle went. So basically now I should not forget what I'm trying to tell you. When I'm talking about qualified opinion, I am placing my opinion under a reservation. Reservation means I cannot just like that say that everything is true and fair. It is true and fair, but there are certain exceptions which are existing. Have you understood this or not? But you know, sometimes what happens, suppose today I told you in the morning that if I have to prepare a balance sheet, I need a purchase book also, I need a sales register also, I need a cash register also, I need so many secondary records. You tell me one thing, once you went to do auditing in a company, okay, so suppose an auditor is, you know, barabar se khana wana kha ke he is coming and he is doing auditing. In the company, suddenly he found that these two records are not there. So what is this happening? This is fire, you know, this is fire taking place. So these two records are destroyed by fire. Now you tell me one thing, if you went to do auditing, today what is the meaning of the term auditing saying? That auditing does not means to hear something, it means to even check or verify. So tell me one thing, if the financial statements, 50-60% of the financial data is destroyed on account of a fire, say, how can you write that everything in the financial statements is unqualified? Can you give an unqualified opinion? Can you even give a qualified opinion? See, because qualified opinion is given when the financial statements are there, but they are not 100% true and fair. Are you getting this point? That means there are some exceptions which are existing, subject to which they are true and fair. I am asking you a very simple question, that whenever I am talking about financial statements, and if there is a fire because of which the financial statements or say part of financial statements get destroyed, you tell me one thing, are you in a position to give any opinion? You are not in a position. Please analyze what I am saying. You are not in a position to give any opinion. And when you are not in a position to give any opinion, you just can't keep, you know, your mouth shut. You cannot be completely silent. You have to say something. So in that case, what you can do, you can always write a disclaimer. You know what's a disclaimer? Before any movie starts or before any program starts, they always use these words, disclaimer. You would have seen also, this is not a new word for you. Why do they write disclaimer? Because they want to safeguard themselves that if somebody tries to do something what is there in the act or in the movie, it is at your risk only. That means what do you mean by auditor's disclaimer? He is writing the word disclaimer because he knows that if he is not giving an opinion, that means he cannot take a risk by giving an opinion where he is not in a position to give any opinion. See, he was not in a position. Half of the records were destroyed by fire. So how he can give an opinion? If he is not in a position to do so, then he will always issue a word, what? Disclaimer. So what is the verdict of the auditor saying? Actually speaking, you know, in disclaimer of opinion, there is always a question mark in the mind of the auditor. He is not knowing anything whether the financial statements are really true and fair. So he is giving a disclaimer of opinion. What do you mean by disclaimer? That he cannot comment on the true and fair view. But if he can comment on the true and fair view completely, he will give an unqualified opinion. If he can comment on true and fair view, but it is subject to certain exceptions, he will give a But if he is not able to comment, then which opinion he will give? A disclaimer of opinion. So disclaimer signifies what? That he is not in a position to comment anything as far as the true and fair view of financial data is concerned. Arey, please tell me, have you understood these points or not? Okay, now if you have understood, just let me make you understand one more type of opinion. Remember, there was one adverse opinion also. I had written there adverse opinion. Look at the word adverse, and can I interpret this word as negative? Okay, that's the answer for my opinion. When I use the word adverse, it means what opinion I am giving? I am giving a negative opinion. To give you a very simple example here, you know what happened in Satyam's fraud? Anybody, at least you would have heard this Satyam scandal. Okay, Satyam scandal took place. Suppose, you know, if a scandal has to take place, what people can do? The chairman of the company, okay, let me just tell you a small example of Satyam fraud. Now, you will say that what do you mean by fraud first of all? You will understand by this example only. What's a fraud? Can I say fraud means intentionally you are trying to cheat someone? Yes, sir. Achha, intentionally when you are trying to cheat someone. Now, giving an example here. Suppose if I say that there are assets in this balance sheet. See, only to explain you, I am drawing the T format. Normally, companies don't prepare T balance sheet. This is called as Desi balance sheet. Okay, just to explain you the example, I am preparing this balance sheet. Understand. So, what happened here? Okay, please pay attention. What happened here? The company tried to overvalue its assets. The company tried to overvalue its assets. You know, the chairman of the company was known as Ramalinga Raju. I call him as Ramu because very big name to pronounce, you know. So Ramu, what he did, you know. See, suppose if this is Ramu's hand. This is Ramu's hand. Let me draw first. This is the hand of PwC. You know who was PwC? PricewaterhouseCoopers was the auditor for Satyam. Okay, PricewaterhouseCoopers and see Ramu both are shaking their hands like this. Okay, what are they doing? You know, in auditing. Okay, please understand. We call this activity as connivance. What do we call it as? Connivance. Now, what do you mean by connivance? Connivance means what? They are actually making a plan here. And you know what is their plan? The plan is to commit a... How things will work? Ramu will tell his accountant to overvalue the asset. Suppose if the asset shown in the balance sheet is 100, Ramu will tell him make 1 0 extra. Okay. Now, what will happen, you know, this is only a book entry. See, by passing a book entry, you can do whatever you want in accounts because it's a book entry. But in reality also, that much asset should be present. In reality, assets are not present, then you just can't pass a book entry. Are you getting this point? So, normally, suppose if I say that I have this machine as my asset, then if I'm writing it as an asset in my balance sheet, this should be physically present also. Are you understanding? If it's only written in the balance sheet, not physically present, then I am not showing a true and fair picture. I am actually showing a window dressed picture. You know what's window dressing? Yes, window dressing means you are trying to show a better picture than what actually will exist in the company. Are you getting this or not? In CPT you would have studied this concept, window dressing. So you tell me, acha, in window dressing what happens? They try to overvalue the assets. Okay. Acha, in window dressing, they try to undervalue the liabilities also. That means what they will show that they don't have any obligations to pay. They will make lower provisions. They will reduce the amount of creditors. Tell me one thing. If Ramu tells his accountant to artificially overvalue the assets or to artificially undervalue the liability, it is whose job to find out that this is artificial and not real? But the auditor is shaking hands with Ramu. When auditor shakes hands with Ramu, can I say that this is going to create a fraudulent situation for the company? So basically speaking, you know what's happening here? Whenever auditor and the management, they both plan a connivance. Whenever auditor and the management, they both plan the connivance, this is actually resulting into a what? Fraud. You know what happened when the fraud came out? Because of Ramu and PwC, the shares were going very high. This is the trend line. You watch stock exchange, CNBC TV 18, stock markets. this is called as a trend line. Because of the fraud taking place, the markets crashed like this. This is the price of Satyam share going down. So when the market was, somewhere, suppose if this is 1000 rupees per share, then it went to 2000 rupees per share. But when the information about fraud spread across the shareholders, everybody started selling the share. Initially they were buying it, because they knew that Satyam is a very nice company, it's a very blue chip company, stable stock, I will get a lot of growth in Satyam if I buy the share. But after the fraud came out, people, instead of buying, they started selling the share. In market terms, when I say selling the share, that means the market became bearish market. You know what's a bearish market? A bearish market is a falling market where you will find that there are so many sellers and there are hardly any buyers. Okay, whereas if the market has to go high, then the market is called as a bullish market. Bullish market means what? That there are buyers more compared to the sellers. So the prices are going high. See, whenever buyers are more, the prices are also high. And the reverse thing happens in the bearish market. Okay, please understand. There is too much of talk. Please, you listen to my example. Don't talk. You will understand something from here. So when I'm saying that the markets are going, coming down as far as the markets are concerned, tell me what happened to the company. Many people lost their money. Suppose if a shareholder would have purchased share at 1000 rupees and when the market came down, can I say that the 1000 rupees share was now selling it at say 200 rupees? So after that also markets did not stop. It started coming down. The share became 10 rupees, 5 rupees also. Just imagine a person who would have purchased shares at 2000 rupees is now getting only 10 rupees for his share. Okay, so this was a result of what? Of a fraud which took place in the company. So that means as an auditor, instead of shaking hands with the management and planning for a connivance, what is advisable from your side? It is advisable that you should write an adverse opinion. That means when you see a possibility of fraud, you know what New Companies Act makes a statement that now if you see a possibility of fraud also, you have to report the same. Abhi matlab, you should be able to predict the future. Tumko tantrik banna padega abhi. You will have to predict the future, that even if there is a possibility of a fraud, I will give an adverse opinion. What I am trying to tell you is that whenever there are situations of frauds taking place, or not even frauds, just a possibility, you will have to give an adverse opinion. So why is adverse opinion given? Because there is a fraud or a negative thing happening inside the company. Tell me one thing, if there is an adverse opinion, can I say that company mein auditor true and fair view likh sakta hai? Can an auditor write true and fair view? That means what he will write that the financial statements are not true and fair anymore. If the financial statements are not true and fair anymore, that means which opinion he is giving? Adverse opinion. Please tell me, have I conveyed you the meaning of what are the different types of opinions? I will repeat once again. What was the first opinion? When financial statements are true and fair, can I give an unqualified opinion? Achha, tell me one thing. What was the next opinion? When financial statements are true and fair, but they are subject to some exceptions, I'll give a qualified opinion. What was the third opinion? Adverse. Now tell me, if it's an adverse, is the third opinion, financial statements are true and fair? No. They are not true and fair at all. That means there are all negativities observed in financial statements. Tell me, what was the next opinion? Disclaimer. Can you conclude anything? In a disclaimer, you can't conclude anything, so you have to play safe by writing the word disclaimer. Have you understood this point? That means these are the 4 opinions which a statutory auditor has to give in his audit report. But let me also tell you one more point here, that whenever statutory auditors are giving these opinions, he is actually giving only one opinion in 1 year. He is not giving all the 4 opinions. Please understand, how all 4 is possible? All 4 is never possible. So he will give any one of the opinion in his statutory audit report, which will be just an information for the shareholder. Because I told you, an opinion is not a recommendation, it's just an information. Have you understood? Okay, can we write it down please? Okay, have you written the title of the standard? Title? Yeah, first point. It is the duty, first point, it is the duty of an auditor. It is the duty of an auditor to make his audit report to make his audit report and to express his opinion in his audit report. Express his opinion in his audit report. Full stop. Next point. Opinions are generally based on the audit evidences obtained by an auditor. Opinions are generally based on the audit evidences obtained by an auditor. Full stop. The management is required to provide sufficient and appropriate audit evidence we have written this statement earlier. Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence on the basis of which an auditor can express his opinion. Full stop. Next point. There are four types of opinions. Which can be expressed. There are four types of opinions which can be expressed in a statutory audit report. Which may be modified or kept unmodified, based on the available evidences. Okay, so you'll have to put a colon and write what is the first opinion? Unqualified. So write down unqualified opinion. The first one is unqualified. Then you have qualified. Then you have adverse. And finally you have a disclaimer of opinion. So unqualified, qualified, adverse, and the last one is disclaimer of opinion. Okay, out of all these four opinions which you are going to write just now, the first one is the most important one, the unqualified one. It can come as a short note, separate short note. So you can write there, first wala, unqualified opinion. Heading, please write heading, unqualified opinion. Yeah, fourth point, unqualified opinion. And in that you write down, it is expressed by an auditor. when he believes that financial statements show a true and fair view. Financial statements show a true and fair view. True and fair view. Full stop. It is also known as which opinion? Clean opinion. Excellent people. It is also known as clean opinion. Full stop. Whenever an auditor concludes that management has followed all the applicable accounting standards, for preparing its financial statements. Management has followed all the applicable accounting standards for preparing its financial statements and has also complied with, here's the spelling, and has also complied with. Complied means again followed only. When I comply with something, I follow. And has also complied with the requirements of revised Schedule 6. Complied with the requirements of revised Schedule 6. Then he will express an unqualified opinion. Full stop. Unqualified opinion is also expressed. Continue. Unqualified opinion is also expressed when an auditor is able to obtain. Unqualified opinion is also expressed when an auditor is able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. In the form of information and explanation. From the management. Full stop. What is the next opinion? Qualified. So next point. A qualified opinion is expressed. Whenever auditor has to place. Qualified opinion is expressed whenever auditor has to place certain reservations. reservations in the form of remarks, has to place reservations in the form of remarks, as there are certain exceptional circumstances, as there are certain exceptional circumstances subject to which, inverted commas, subject to which he shall qualify his report, subject to which he shall qualify his report, full stop. For example, this is a past exam question, okay? The government grant example which I gave you, 4 marks question it was asked. So always we can write past questions as examples also. For example, if an entity has received a specific fixed asset grant, if an entity has received a specific fixed asset grant, then the depreciation on the fixed asset should be charged after deducting the specific grant, that is on the reduced cost, of the asset, But if the management charges depreciation, on the original cost, then the auditor will qualify his report. Full stop. Which one is the next one? Adverse opinion. Write down, adverse opinion is expressed. Point number? Adverse opinion is expressed whenever an auditor observes frauds or violations of laws, which in nowhere convey a true and fair view. Convey a true and fair view. Full stop. Therefore, in an adverse opinion, there is no true and fair view. In an adverse opinion, there is no true and fair view. No true and fair view. Full stop. Next point. What's the last one? Disclaimer. Disclaimer of opinion. Disclaimer of opinion is expressed. Disclaimer of opinion is expressed when an auditor is expressed when an auditor concludes that he is unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. He is unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Full stop. A disclaimer implies that an auditor is actually not able to comment upon the true and fair view. Comment upon the true and fair view. For example, if the available books of accounts are destroyed by fire or are not shown to an auditor then he will express a disclaimer. I think you don't have the habit to write only. I'm making you write maybe because you're finding it very weird that you're writing so much. But you have never written so much before? No? Tax you write, no? So this is also audit. Write in audit also. I can understand since you don't have that much habit, you're finding it a little difficult to manage. सांस ले लो, take breathing break. How many pages you wrote? कितना? 8. You can write 8 more also.